The Women Conquer Business Show is an educational, how-to women in business podcast that features stories, marketing news, and real-life experiences from fun and friendly hosts Jen McFarland and Shelly Carney. Join us as we dive into the details so you can slay marketing overwhelm, streamline processes, and amplify your impact. You'll learn strategies and tactics, leadership skills, and practical advice from successful women entrepreneurs to help you grow, nurture, and sustain your business. Hey. Welcome to Women Conquer Business. I'm Jen McFarland, joined by Shelly Carney. On this week's show, it is create video script templates to increase content quality. I think anybody who's tried to create anything knows how hard it can be. And well, one of the easiest ways to make it a little bit better is to draft an outline or a show flow or a script so that you know about what you're going to say when. So what do you say, Shelly?
Good morning and hello, everybody. I'm Shelly Carney. Today, once again, we're talking about creating video scripts, but sometimes we don't even need a script. We need just, an outline or, I know what I'm going to talk about. I'll just show up. Make sure you have something written down that you can refer to if things start to go wrong and you get distracted. If you're doing a show, there's a lot of distractions and last minute things that you'll have to take care of. So you want to make sure that you have something to refer back to get you back on target. That's
and I'm giggling for a couple of reasons. One, we were 2 minutes late going live because we forgot something on our checklist, which is funny. So we were about to launch and the banner was going to be for last week's episode. And two, I use podcasting as a way to kind of release, tension or whatever, just have fun. And so I haven't had a real schedule or show flow until Shelly and I started working together. So this is an episode where Shelly's going to take the lead, and I'm probably going to talk about the downside of not planning because I have a lot of experience on that side of not drafting and having some shows that I think went really well because the inspiration hit, and then some shows that maybe didn't go so well because I didn't really know how to frame the ideas that I had. And it can go either way. And so I think I just want to be really transparent with people that I am not always the big planner. I know the value of planning as someone who has worked for several years as a project manager. So I think it's important to really kind of frame this appropriately, where I'm not going to sit here and as the expert on this particular thing. Shelly is the expert, and I think it's going to be a really great show because it really does make things easier, I think.
Well, sometimes it's a personality thing. When I got married, I was 20 years old, and I created an agenda for the evening we'll be at the wedding, and then we're going to go to the reception, and here's the things that are going to happen at the reception and at what time I want them to happen. And that I did that because we had moving pieces, right? We had a DJ who needed to know, okay, these are the times that we want these songs, and this is when we'll show up, and then this is the dance we're going to do, so that he would be prepared and know what was coming up next. And it would help him to do a better job. And it would also help everybody who was involved in the wedding party to know, okay, here's the series of events. So we didn't have to constantly, tell people, here's what we're doing, here's what's next, and all of that. I could focus on being at the reception and being in the moment instead of trying to communicate to everybody, okay, don't forget we're going to do this next. I didn't want to there wasn't a party planner. There wasn't an event planner there to take care of that. So sure. I wrote an agenda, handed that out, and it facilitated all the communications.
And I think that that's really great. And I would say that we had that for the wedding. Let me just ask you let me ask for another example. So do you plan your vacations in detail?
It depends. Sometimes what I'll do is, like, say one time Kevin and we went to Colorado and we wanted to do uh, zip lining, we wanted to do rafting, and we wanted to do the Great Sand Dunes. And so we did kind of plan that out. On this day we're going to do this, and on this day we're going to do this, but it wasn't like minute by minute or anything. I don't plan every minute, but I do say I would like to go see this, so let's do that on this day. And we look at the map and what's close to what, because then you can take full advantage of being there, whereas you don't get home and go, oh shoot, we should have done this other thing, it was right there, we missed it, we didn't even think about it, we didn't even know it was there. So you want to make full use of the time that you have. But I don't structure everything. It depends on if we have goals too. Like when we went to the conference, the She Podcast conference, everything was very scheduled out for us, and we got pick and choose what we want to do. So I created an agenda because there was 3 of us. Again, we all needed to be on the same page, and then we needed to slot people in for their interviews and keep all 18 interviews on in within that agenda. So it really depends on what your mission and goal are, and if you need to accomplish something, then you want to make a plan for it.
And I think that, and I totally agree with that. And in project management, we call that structured flexibility. And what that means is you have like a general structure, and then how you get there, sometimes you have to be flexible because, like for example, in the She Podcasts or even vacation, like things come up and you have to have enough flexibility in your plan that you can go wherever things take you, because you don't always have control over everything. And and I guess that for me, I do that kind of planning and everything. I just view podcasting, because I was never a professional like you. Like you've worked in like structured like media and stuff, and I view this as kind of like an experience. Like I was talking to my friend Bridget this morning, and I was like, sometimes I just don't know what's going to come out of my mouth, and I know I've said the same thing to you. Like, and sometimes that is kind of the lens that I go through with podcasting. But I will say that is not always the best thing to do. It's not always the best way to go into it. So what we have, do you want to talk about how we kind of structure our show? And I think that'd be a good lead into kind of why it's something that people need to really think about.
So what we do is we start off with greetings and chat. So Jen and I will give some context to our lives. So we're not just talking heads that appear on your screen and start blathering about content marketing. We tell you, like, I just moved to Arizona for a couple of months to help alleviate some of the pressure that was on my dad and brother, because my mom is in a nursing home recovering from a stroke. So I'm able to be there now, and I can be there almost every day. I take off Wednesdays and Thursdays to do my shows. Again, structuring, and when I first got here, it was like, okay, I'm not sure what days I'm going to be here, what days they're going to be here. But as we do the first week, we come to an understanding of when people can be there, when they can't, and we develop a schedule together. And then we can start to stick with that. And that's going to help my mom to know, okay, who's coming in today, what time are they staying, because people change around her all the time, and it's confusing for her. The nurse assistants come in, and it's somebody different every day, and that confuses her. So having that structure is very helpful for people like her who are elderly and recovering from a stroke. It's very good for children. I used to teach preschool, so we had a very structured day. But you also have to have some some wiggle room in case you have kids who are wiggly. You can take them outside whenever you need to, things like that.
Was I a wiggly kid? I think I probably was.
Yeah.
Well, but I was also a nerd, so like there was that. I wanted to pay attention. So, okay. But I would say that we also, as busy business owners who have a lot on our plates, the structure helps keep us in line. And then the other thing that the structure helps with is it helps listeners and viewers know kind of what to expect. So we usually start with a chat. I am to just kind of tell everybody kind of where I'm at. I'm a little rummy today. I'm like kind of, I have been teaching. I think I've taught for 9 hours of digital marketing over the last week.
Wow.
And when I said yes to everything, I think I kind of didn't realize that it was like 2 days in a row and then another day. And so as someone who's just coming back from vacation, it's kind of thrown all of my scheduling like in a shambles. We're like in the throes of figuring out exactly what kind of setup we want to have for Epiphany courses. So like that's all being reworked. I mean, there's just a time right now where I feel kind of tired and like I have a lot of balls in the air. And it's great. And I feel a little bit like I have my hair on fire because I have a lot to do. And having the structure is very helpful for me today because I kind of knew that this show was um, I asked Shelly to make a landing page and make a template for everybody. So everybody who's watching and listening has an opportunity to download a video script template and to really, kind of start this process on their own. But it was helpful for me to know that I didn't have like a lot of pressure in terms of planning ahead of time, and really thinking about um, what it means to create a video script template and that kind of thing, because it's not in our show flow, the way it works, this is not my job. Shelly came up with the entire structure of like, I come up with the title and the description. Shelly comes up with the structure. And when she presented it to me when we first got started, I thought it was great. We just kind of chat in the beginning. We do some breaking news. There's a training piece, call to action, tweaks of the week, which are like the fun apps and stuff that we find and what's going on in the world. And then an inspirational nugget, which is usually Shelly's inspirational. She's a life coach, so we want to honor like everybody's expertise and what they do. And I think that that's really the beauty of what Shelly's created here, is that everybody has kind of their piece of the pie, and then it's also created so that everybody and the listeners, the viewers, and us as the hosts feels like they're being served in one way or another. Would you say that that's really kind of part of the art of developing something like this?
Yeah, I studied it for a couple of years. Of course, I've been live streaming since 2017 every week, and you learn things, you learn what works and what doesn't, and then I studied other people who also live stream and their methods, and then I put the show flow together based on that, and I try to keep it simple enough that it turns into the show notes, because we just can plug in the resources and that sort of thing. And the having 5 segments keeps it in a container, right? That
Okay.
that there's going to be 5 segments, and that you hit all the high points, and then you've done a show, and you hit your mission, right?
Yeah. Ta-da! No, I mean, I think that it's great. And I'd be curious to know if anybody has started watching or listening, since I think, was it January when we started doing this, and
Yeah.
if how they appreciate some of the changes, because people who listen to the show in years past, back in 2018 when this got started, it's honestly up until January, it was more of a I guess intuitive hits or thoughts or ideas that I was sharing. It was not necessarily structured. It wasn't always about marketing. It wasn't, it was kind of, it was kind of like story time with Jen. And I think that, and sometimes I miss aspects of that because there's times for that. But the pressure of doing that every week it was really hard. I mean, it was really stressful. And then I don't know that people really knew what to expect. So I think if it didn't hit, then it was hard to get people to come back because there was nothing to latch
And
on to,
when you
you
can
know.
come up with a theme, and then it's easier to come up with individual topics. And once you've determined and
Yeah.
landed on a topic, then you can pull out, everything or everything you want to say about that. And because you did that, for our content marketing theme, you picked out things, you put them in a spreadsheet. Uh, because I was asking you every week, do you have a title and description yet? Because I need to upload and I need to do, the newsletter, and I need to, I have a
Well, we're
a
meshing
flow.
like two flows together, and my
Yeah.
flow has evolved greatly since we started the show. So we needed like a landing place. And I think that's really helped. We have what Shelly's talking about is we have a Google sheet where so we met, we talked about all the topics we want to discuss. I have them all scribbled down on my Remarkable tablet. I send them to Shelly, and then I just started plugging in the titles and the descriptions because we carefully select titles and descriptions based on like search terms. So what like the title is create video script templates. We don't necessarily in our dialogue call it a video script template, but that's a word that's searched a lot. So
Mhm.
if people are looking for video script templates, we want them to find this because we call it a show flow. But that's what this is. This is a
Yeah.
template that people can use to script their videos. You can also use it to script your podcast. And so we use that then as a guide. And so that's like our topic. And then I write a description based on that topic. And then that goes into the spreadsheet. And then Shelly takes that and pushes it out on StreamYard. And then we both kind of think about the different elements of the show flow for like how we're going to break it down and like really talk about this topic in full.
Yeah. And because we've done that, right? Because you've set up this spreadsheet of this day we're going to talk about this day we're going to talk about that, you can go on vacation. I can move. You can go do talks all week, and then we can both show up, and then we can go. We know what we're talking about because we already planned it out in advance, and we're ready to go. So it's just giving you that extra buffer to take care of life, and then still get your podcast done.
Yeah. Show up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, I also think it has a lot to do with how to like engage with people. People know what to expect. We haven't really talked about breaking news. I feel like, I feel like I've been running my hair on fire. You've been moving around and doing a lot. I noticed neither one of us wrote anything today for breaking news. I think that it's just, we appreciate everybody here. We appreciate that we're here. And sometimes that's the breaking news.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my only breaking news is that Toby and I have also shuffled up our schedule again. So we've got news and views on Wednesday and Saturday nights, and we have
Oh, yeah.
moved messages and methods to Thursdays at 1:00 Mountain. So we're going to try it there for a little while. We had tried it on Wednesdays at 1, then we moved it Wednesdays to 5, and then now we're trying it on Thursdays at 1. We're going to see how it goes. Sometimes you have to do that. We know what works, and that's news and views is working very well. So we're capitalizing on that, keeping it where it was, and giving that our attention, our full attention, and then taking the piece that isn't working as well and moving it around until it finds a home that really works.
That
for
makes
it.
sense. That
Yeah.
resonates. Yeah. And I guess my breaking news is that my friend Bridget Willard and I kind of decided we're maybe sort of kind of doing a podcast. We've talked
We're just discussing your show flow, and now you're like,
like,
eh.
yeah, I mean, it's so funny. We've talked about it and texted, and we're both like, well, we don't really have any time, but we really like to talk, and we think that other people would think that would be fun. And so then so then today I was like, why don't we just record? Why don't we just meet on Saturday and record? And she's like, oh, I would love that, and what we had talked about before was having something called, so we've named it. It's 302 Marketing Redirect. So if you're super nerd, 302 is what you put in a website to redirect people to a new page. And so it's basically after hours marketing. So we're just going to be talking about the things that I think it's behind the scenes and the things that we're thinking about. And we're going to do that this week it's on Saturday at 5:00 Pacific. She's in Texas, so it'll be 7:00 in Texas. I think it's just going to be fun times. We're going to be talking, and it's going to be I think it's likely to be a lot less structured because neither one of us have a lot of time. We both agreed that that we don't have time to market it, we don't have time to put a ton of effort into it, but we just love visiting and sharing kind of our thoughts around certain topics. And so we thought, why not like put it out into the world and see how it goes? So it's kind of an experimental thing. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And like right before I came on here, I just like put it up on the YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to set a reminder, they can. So let's get back. So that would be the antithesis of having a show flow and a plan is the or we're just
But
doing
you
this
see,
thing.
it drags you back. You're like,
It
oh,
does.
well, we haven't done breaking news yet. Let's do that. And
Let's
then
do
we can
that.
move forward into training some more.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for.
No,
It's-
but I'm also saying like we aren't really scheduling and going through all these steps that we're talking about. But most of it is that we're just testing it out. Like we don't
Mhm.
know how much time we have or if it's going to work or not,
And there isn't
Um,
always breaking news.
and there isn't always breaking news.
So you can just
Yeah.
like, it's a living document, just work with
So
it.
so let's go like straight away into the training. Where do you want to start with this? How do you want to share this? Where do you want to go in terms of how to really help somebody like create a good outline that can really improve their content?
Okay. Well, there's a couple of ways you can do it now, depending on how loosey-goosey I am a public speaker. I've got this. You are, or I need extreme structure because I'm scared of what I'm doing in my first time. So you can kind of structure it the way you need to structure it to give you that extra space or to keep you confined into, I don't want to go off on too many rabbit holes. If you're a person who does that, like sometimes we all do that. So one of the ways is to create a show flow that just gives you those key highlighted topics. Okay, I'm going to do this, then talk about that, then talk about this, and then I got to do that, and then close. And then it keeps you in a structure, but not so structured that you can't, have, oh, let me talk about this. And oh, I just thought of a story. You could throw that in there. Now, we don't actually script right word for word anything except for things like intros and outros. So when we say script, what we really mean is an outline. And another way to outline is by creating a slide set. And you can share that slide set on screen with you to keep not only you focused on where you're at, but the audience, it gives them that visual learning component. So they're not just looking at two people talking and gesturing, they're also seeing pictures and words so that the message really gets into their minds and helps them to implement it more easily. So that's what Toby and I do for our Messages and Methods show. We create a slide set for every show and we work from that. It keeps us both on the same page. It keeps us sometimes we'll open up a slide and he'll start talking and I'll, insert and we'll go back and forth with the bullet points. And sometimes I'll say all the bullet points and then he'll come in with a story or something. So it keeps us that structure, but it's still loose enough that you can do your public speaking. The alternative to that is to write yourself little paragraphs. Okay, I'm going to say this. And then I'm going to ask this question, and then I'm going to say this, and I'm going to ask this question. And you can do that when you're starting out, if that helps you to talk and to not be afraid that you're going to go blank, because that is a fear, especially if you're alone, where you're just staring at the cameras with dead air, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, as you were talking, I remembered that when I first, so this podcast was originally way back, episode 1 had 2 people, co-hosts, and then it became just me, and I did script, like I wrote out kind of what I was going to say, and then I found I was just reading it, and I thought, that's not very engaging either, and then for some reason, instead of doing what we do now, I just went all the way like to like nothing was written down. And it's actually not something I would recommend. I think that you can overscript kind of like you were saying, and then you can also like go too far the other way, which is certainly where I had been, then after I went solo. So yeah, you have to go with whatever works for you, whatever makes you feel the most comfortable, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like slides. Toby and I have used them for years, and they really help to, you know, help me think ahead. Okay, we're going to talk about this. And I can do a little bit of research. I can say, okay, what have had other people said about this in articles and blogs and stuff. And I can put those in as bullet points because I've read the material, and I'm like, okay, well, I can bring that up, and I can, helps me to have a cohesive and coherent presentation when I do it that way.
Yeah. And we've done that, I think, twice maybe on Women Conquer Business. And I
Mhm.
think that it's probably something that we need to incorporate. I'm slowly getting all of these new systems in place, and it just takes me a little time to adopt it. I think that I've been resistant to the slides. I'll share with the we're sharing. Hey, let's share live. Like, let's workshop our show live. No,
Yeah.
but I've been resistant to that because I've thought, well, if people are listening,
Right.
are we going to end up talking about the slides in a way that if you can't see them, it's
Mhm.
not going to be engaging? And that's been my resistance to that, is I don't
Yeah.
want to be like, well, as you can see here, and
Yeah.
then there's nothing for people to see if you're
Right.
listening. So
Right.
I feel like I want to do that, but I want to do it with knowing that people are listening. And I think that I'm like, in terms of my ability to think that quickly about a slide, I don't think I personally am in that place yet. But I do think that in terms of what you and Toby do, which is you create like a deck of shows, you plan out a lot of shows, and then you turn them into books. I don't think you could do that the way that we do a show right now.
Right.
You have to
Mhm.
have that structure, and you have to have, the slides, so that you're holding yourself accountable a little bit more stronger, so that like downstream, this is going to become a book. And if you
Exactly.
don't do all of that, then like, we haven't created anything yet that's going to become a book at this point without
Mhm.
heavy editing. I mean, we could,
Mhm.
but it would take a lot more time. Is that true? I mean, aren't the slides partially to guide you through like writing a book?
It's true. And I do blog posts from them as well. First, I do a blog post. So I'll take and transcribe the podcast that we've done, and then I turn that into a blog post. So I have to edit it, and as I'm editing it, I'm learning. Okay, we need to get to the meat of the sentence here instead of a bunch of blah blah blah, and then choice. And then it's it's all over the place. It makes it really hard to edit it into a understandable, readable format if you're not very focused. And that's one of the reasons we do it. And I forgot what I was going to say. You were talking, and I was
Oh,
like,
and then also
I
you said
should
you do
add
it
to
for the
this.
blog post, and then you also, I'm assuming the next thought on that was also then so you can take it into the book
Yeah,
format. Like,
sure.
you know, um, and I think that there's a lot of value in that. I watch your shows, and like last night I was making pithy comments, but like, I watched them without saying anything, and there is a structure. There's an appreciation I have for the slides, and again, for me, I want to make sure that I do slides with intentionality, and that it's in a way that if somebody is listening, they can also capture it. I guess the alternative would be we create slides and then we make them available in the
Mhm,
show notes or something
mhm.
like that, so then people can do it
Well, the
and
thing about
engage that
slides,
way.
and I just remembered what I was going to say, the slides are visual. And some people who are listening to your podcast may say, oh, I need to go look at that so that I can see that slide. But at the same time, you need to make sure when you're doing the slides that Toby's like, well, you don't read the slides to people. And I'm like, yeah, not when they can see them, you don't. But when they're only listening, I have to read the slides or they're not going to know what the words were that were on there.
Yeah,
So we had to come to that place where we understood that I'm going to read the words on the slide for the podcast audience. And then he's going to tell a story for all our audience so that it kind of brings everything together, but it's not something they have to see. They can hear it and understand it.
that makes a lot of sense. So you let's go back for just a second. So it sounds like you come up with your theme for your show, what you're
Mhm.
going to talk about. We have for our show 5 buckets. You could have, how many buckets could somebody else have for their show?
You want to stay no more than 7. 3 to 5 is really good.
And
Keeps
these
it
are, yeah,
shorter and more concise.
yeah. So these
Yeah.
are like 5 topics or buckets or however you want to put it of things that you could be talking about. And then what is it that somebody should put in it? So if you set up the 5 buckets for us, it's like chat, there our opening chat and then breaking news, presentation, call to action, tweaks of the week, and inspirational nugget. So then if you've never done this before, what should people be putting into that draft outline after they've come up with their buckets?
First off, before you even get to the buckets, now those are good to keep in mind for where you're going to go. But to start off with, you want to say, okay, am I teaching something? Am I training on something? And if so, how is it? What information does my audience need? And how can I best present that? And then come up with 3 main points to teach that topic. And that's what's in the free download that we're offering today. It helps you to really coalesce that thinking into 3 main points and how to present those and how to engage your audience at points along the way so that they feel like they can add to the conversation. It's really geared for live streaming, this particular show flow that we're showing and sharing with people.
I think that's really great. And one of the things that people maybe don't know, and I don't know if how much you've paid attention to it, Shelley, is this podcast is a fairly highly rated show, and our primary category is actually how to. It's
Oh.
not business. It's not marketing.
Mhm.
I had a really clear intention, and I did this, I don't know, a year and a half ago, probably, that that's what I was doing. It's how to, it's about lessons and things like that. So having like a training in the middle, and having shows that most of the time start with how to, it's entirely by design. So, and I did it because how to educational, it's not as competitive. I mean, how many marketing shows are there out there? There's not as much competition to be talking about some of this stuff. So sometimes when you are designing these things, you have to keep the end in mind, I guess is what I'm going
Yeah.
to say. Like, this is what we do. We are a how-to show, and we have buckets that are entirely designed around how to do something.
Mhm. And that's your starting point, is the training itself. And then you add on the other pieces. So the chat is to get to know the hosts. The breaking news is to draw you in and give you that, oh, I have an opinion on that. Oh, that sounds awesome. I want to learn more. It draws people in. And then you do the training once you have their attention. And then you end that training with the CTA, the call to action, which gives them a resource or a way to work with you on that, whatever it is that you trained about. So today, of course, we're going to have that free download. That's our CTA. And then we do tweaks of the week because it gives us that credibility of being experts who actually do the work ourselves. Hey, this new thing happened and I learned this from it and it's really great and you should try it. Or on our other show, instead of doing that, we do a trivia question, and that brings people in because they get excited about, oh, I want to know the answer, or I know how I have a good guess, I have an answer, and then they win a prize. So they feel like, oh, that was really worth my time because I went there and I felt smart and I won a prize. And then we end with that inspirational nugget so that everybody feels uplifted and a happy group. I'm glad I showed up for that show. I'm glad I was there live. I'm glad I participated. I feel really good, so that they'll want to keep coming back.
Exactly. And I thought all this time, I thought we did breaking news and tweaks of the week so I could talk about nerd stuff. But yeah, you're right. It makes us seem very professional. But I honestly thought it was in part due to, for talking about apps and stuff, because I always have a new app that I'm trying and things like that. But I think it is truly that we're in the weeds, just like everybody who's listening and talking about it is helpful. It's helpful.
Well, people are always asking, right? They're always asking, what email provider should I use? What streaming provider should I use? What's the best social media platform? And how, they want to know. So include it in your show, the things that
Yeah.
people are always asking.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So so we've drafted the outline. How do we use this show flow?
hmm Well, every week we start out with the template part and then just change the things, right? So we'll put in the title, we'll put in the description, and then Jen is really good about including what we're going to talk about in her description. So I'll just pull those pieces out and stick that into the training so that we make sure that whatever she said we're going to talk about, we do talk
Cover
about because
that.
it's in our training section. And then if I have something that I want to share, like I just moved to Arizona and I'm helping with my mom and I'm driving her Toyota RAV4 around town. It's pretty cool. I can stick that in there. Jen can write in there things that she wants to talk about so that we don't forget, so that it's right there in front of us and we can go,
Yeah.
don't go, oh, I forgot to mention this. Shoot, we have it down. And then we'll just go in there throughout the day or so before we do the show, and we'll add in things that we've come up with. Sometimes we don't have time for that, and we won't do it till the morning of, but that's
Mhm.
okay too. And we just fill in the blanks. So we fill in what I'm going to chat about, fill in any breaking news, we fill in any presentation or training interests, information, and resources. If we come across a really good blog or article or video or something that we want to share, we'll put that link in our show flow so that we can
Yeah.
share it on the screen or that we can get it into the show notes for people to click on. We come up with a CTA. Jen asked us for a download this week, so we put that together, gave her the link that's in there. And then for tweaks of the week, what did I do this week that was really cool online or with my computer, or what did I learn, and stick that in there. And then inspirational nugget. Very often, I just take whatever I was learning in my daily Stoic today
Yeah.
or sometime this week, grab it, plop, put it right in
Put
there,
it in there.
and it's super
Yeah.
easy and it's
Well,
there when you're
yeah.
ready.
And I do those. So the way I use it, like I just added something. I just remembered what my tweak of the week was right now.
Yay!
So I don't know how Shelly's setup is, but right now in front of me, I have, the lights, the camera, action, no, and the computer and the mic and everything. But I can see Shelly and myself on the StreamYard feed. And then next to it, because I don't have multiple monitors, next to it is the weekly show flow. So I'm kind of like glancing over and keeping track of what we're talking about. I also have it up next to me so that then, like, when I came up with the tweak of the week for the cool thing I've been using this week, like I was like, oh yeah, like, because even like when we're up here talking, it's easy then to forget what you were going to say or forget what idea you had. And so if that's happening, you can also have it open. It not only keeps you on track with the buckets, but also keeps you able to kind of think about things and put them in on the fly if you didn't think of them ahead of time. So
Alternatively, you can print it out and just make handwritten notes on it if that's easier
absolutely.
for you.
Yeah. This desk does not need any more paper on it
Which
right
Toby
now.
likes to do. He likes to print everything out. He likes to have a hard copy. And because if we were to open it, it would be on a screen that would be just a little bit away from him, so he wouldn't be able to read it as easily. So he likes to have that hard
Sure.
copy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I need two monitors, but
Me too.
whatever. It is what it is. And I heard you have a pretty hot computer over there. I talked to Toby this week.
Oh yeah, my brother donated it for while I'm here, and then
Yeah.
eventually my parents will get a new. I'm hoping they'll get a desktop. They have an old laptop, so I'm hoping they'll get a
Yeah.
desktop instead, which I think would be faster for them.
Yeah, Toby promised he would send me pictures and a video of your studio that you two created in Arizona. And for those of you who didn't watch the earlier show about setting up your at-home studio, you might want to go back and look at that because they stood this up within a day. And then
Yeah.
Shelly is in a studio now that was created in Arizona so that for the next 2 months, she's able to navigate and do everything that she's been doing in another location. So there is a reason why, we talk about this stuff, why we write this stuff down, why we do it, because then it's able to be replicated over and over again.
That's
And that's
right.
kind of the beauty of it. So, okay. So what about the script? Like how do you actually create your own script template then?
Well, for things that I'm going to be reading as a script, I'll say an intro or a promo. I'll be
Mhm.
using more marketing language. So I will write that out word for word, but I'll keep it to a minute or less. And then I'll just read that. We'll record my voice and then put it together with under a video so that it's, you know, voiceover. That's the only real scripting that I do. Other than that, we use either slides or a show flow.
Yeah,
What about
makes a
you?
lot of sense. I mean, I fly by the seat of my pants over here.
Yeah.
I did in the past do some scripting, like I said. It's just that then if I have too many words in front of me, then and it's not something like these digital marketing courses, I have been teaching those and
Mhm.
iterating on it for like several years now. And so I know what the slides say, but if I'm
Mhm.
creating slides every week or I'm creating a script every week, I don't have the time to really learn it cold. So then I found that I was stumbling over words and it was a little bit more difficult to have a script in that regard. Again, like, and then I'm a perfectionist and I get all flustered if my reading didn't go right. So, you know, for me, fewer words are better. And then there's kind of a downside to that too, I suppose. But having these buckets has been incredibly helpful for me, and I think that that's why it was so important to really talk about it. And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people don't talk about these things. I feel like the show a lot of times talks about the unsexy parts that are so essential. Like people need these things so much. And
Mhm.
because nobody's talking about it, because everybody wants to sell you on the latest funnel or something, you know, not a lot of people are getting the real nuts and bolts of what it takes to put content out there. And people think that it's all done just on the fly when really the really good content creators don't. They plan everything
That's
out
right.
and they have a real idea of what they're doing and then what comes next. And that's
Yeah.
one of the great things that has happened now is that we have that spreadsheet and we know what's coming next,
Yeah.
and we can really talk about it. Like next week we're going to talk about YouTube. Did you know
Ah,
that? Did you know
I
that
did
that's
not.
that's
I
next
haven't
week?
I haven't
So,
looked ahead. I've been kind of busy, but yeah,
yeah.
I like
Well, I
YouTube.
looked ahead cuz I was like, "Oh, so I'm excited to talk about YouTube because there are aspects of it, even though we use it, that are not as intuitive. So I'm going to spend some time this week kind of learning about it and see what I can bring about how to use YouTube. Even like kind of the novice, how to do it and navigate it. And I know that you have so much expertise in this too that I think that we'll do it.
Well,
And
I
then
think I think what we can offer is Jen has a channel that was under 100 subscribers when we started. Now it's over 100. She can talk about how to grow a small channel to make it bigger. And mine isn't really growing, but we have several channels.
you have several
And
channels. Yeah.
on the other channels that are monetized, I can talk about what it's like to be monetized and what are the other things that are available to you once you become a YouTube partner. And
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
going to go
I think
really
it's going
well.
to be a great
Yeah.
show. So, okay, we've been talking about this free show flow template. How do people get to that? What can they
Yeah.
expect? I actually saw a preview of how you can talk about this last night in that I think it's really great because it's a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about. It's a template that people can use, but then it's also you've done a great write up at the end, I think, to really help guide people as well.
Well, let us take a look at if you go to showflow.agkmedia.studio, you'll get to the landing page and let's show what that landing page looks like. And
Yes,
for those
please.
of you just listening, you will get to you'll have all these in the description box. You'll see all of the information there. Let's do this.
Yep. I see
There
it.
we go. So this is the landing page, the show flow template with instructions. Design the flow of your show that you will follow. This will help your audience to follow along with you, and it will help you plan and stay consistent. The show flow may change over time as you see what works best for you and what might need to be added or deleted. Use this worksheet to get started. And
Yeah.
then you just fill in the information, and you will be taken to a Google Doc that you can then copy to your own Google Drive, and you'll
Mhm.
have it on your drive, and you'll be able to make changes, fill it in, and however you want to use it. It starts off with a show flow for a solo presentation, and it helps you to really think about the things that you're going to need to include. What does my audience want to know? What does my audience need to know? And what do they not need to know? Because too much information is not helpful. Then we have the show flow, which tells
Mhm.
you, okay, start with a teaser or a hook. Today we're going to tell you all the ways you shouldn't do blah blah blah. What's a quick rhetorical question you can ask? Have you ever had this happen to you? Or something of that nature. And then a short introduction of yourself. I'm Shelley Carney. I'm a content entrepreneur, and I'm here today to tell you all about blah, blah, blah. Quick engagement. How many of you feel successful and happy? How many of you believe that you're a content entrepreneur on the rise? Just anything to talk to your audience about this. Then we get into your teaching points. Include with your first teaching point, include an anecdote or a quote,
Nice.
and that helps to make it more personal. Break for engagement. And this works not only as a show, but really it also works as a webinar or something that you might do, in front of people, or you can do it online. So this works really well for that, helping you just to hone your message. Your second teaching point can include a story or a testimonial, somebody that you've worked with or helped in the past, or something that happened to you that worked really well. Then again, break for engagement. Ask the audience, what do you think? Have you ever had this happen to you? Things of that nature. And then third teaching point, you want to engage the senses and the emotions through specific details. So it smelled like roses, or I wanted it to smell like roses, but it smelled like a nursing home. So I had to bring in Febreze, just engage the senses. Like people can feel like they're there with you, and that is going to create that bond. And then break for engagement one last time before you then do the call to action. Ask your audience to take a specific action. And then close with an upbeat close. Help people feel good about the time they spent watching your show. The second thing on here is how you would do the same sort of thing with an interview presentation if you're bringing on a guest. And I'm not going to go through each point of that because it's pretty much the same thing, but we're incorporating a guest. And then we have a show flow template and instructions. So this is the one that Jen and I and Toby and I use. And it tells you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, connection, breaking news, training and advice, call to action, tools, tips, or trivia, inspirational nugget. And then I give you a blank form that you can fill in yourself. And because, like I said, it's a Google Doc, if you just import it into your own Google Drive, you can change it and fill it out however you like to do it.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that I love all of the detail. I love everything that you've put together. I think that and it's so flexible, like you said, it could be for a webinar, it could be for a podcast, it could be for live streaming like we have. If you just want to prepare, you could use it also for preparing for a talk or anything that you're working on. So please do go to showflow.agkmedia.studio, and that's where you'll find that landing page, and you can download that template that will help guide you through some of these things. I feel like it's a really good accelerator for moving your content forward in a way that maybe you've never done before. It doesn't have to be a heavy lift. It's just a place really where you can brainstorm and kind of put some things together, so you have a way to kind of wander through all of the topics that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So thank you for making that, Shelley.
You bet.
And also
These are things that we've used with our clients in the past, so it was easy to put it together. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very generous of you to put it put it together for free to send that people can use it.
Yeah.
So so yeah, so do you have anything else to share about the show flow?
No, but if you look at that show flow and you think, well, gosh, I could do that. I want to start my own live stream, but I don't know what to do. You can you can call us. You can schedule an appointment at calendar.agkmedia.studio, or you can reach out to Jen. And where should they find you, Jen?
womenconquerbiz.com.
There you go.
So we can totally help. I don't have a special download. I just have a newsletter at womenconquerbiz.com/newsletter. If you're interested in that, getting updates on all things marketing and episodes. Shelly also shares things about the Women Conquer Business Show and all the shows that she's doing and hot tips about live streaming and content marketing. And then, did you have a tweak of the week? I came up with a tweak of the week during the show. How do you like that?
See, you can do things on the fly when you have the rest of it all mapped out. You
All
can fill in
mapped
that.
out.
Oh, yeah, here's something I can add.
So, what I discovered is something called Canny. So, last week I was talking about Heartbeat. It's a community platform that's offered on AppSumo right now. I I mean, I've adopted it for Epiphany courses as we prepare to roll out this new subscription plan that we have and all of this content that we've been preparing. And in there, once you log in and you have a account with Heartbeat, then they're like, well, do you want to tell us about any bugs or anything that's going on? And it takes you to this other page and it's called Canny. And that's the name of the template. Now you've seen these before. A lot of times startups use it in their like Trello boards and they're sharing their roadmap forward. And it's also a place where you can do bugs or things. So for Epiphany courses, we're going to use Canny. It's free unless you need like a ton of bells and whistles. But we're going to use that for people who are logged in to our membership then to give us course suggestions. And that's how we're going to use it. But it was only available. I figured out how to do it so that it's only public to people who we want to be able to give us suggestions. So it's kind of a neat tool because it's kind of behind a wall. And then for large corporations or larger startups, they use Canny. So places like, ClickUp and bigger organizations, they use Canny to communicate between, like, if you had an app and customers, they could share like bugs and feature requests, and then you can put like your roadmap. I just think it's kind of a neat way to keep track of things. And what I've found I've been doing this week is I've been using Canny during the presentations. I'll write down like ideas that people have or things that could be classes. And I've just been typing in like all these course ideas that I've had into Canny. And then as we start to onboard people into our membership, then they can vote and tell us if they like some of the ideas. So it's kind of a way to kind of validate ideas as well, because people can upvote. Anybody who's in there can have a course idea. And then we're, as the owners of the board, we decide like what's in planning, what's in development, what's delivered. But it's a way to kind of communicate about what it is that you're working on, what's in production, what's not. I thought it was just a really good tool. I haven't seen it a lot for like course creation. It's mostly for apps, but I kind of adapted it for something to kind of communicate with our members about what we're working on now so that they know what to expect. So that's called Canny. If you go to Canny, let's see, I think it's just canny.io. And it's, like I said, it's free. It's customer feedback. There's a lot of customer feedback software out there. You could certainly use it in different ways. It's really hard if you're doing like one-to-one services to use it in that way. I think it's better if you have some sort of customer service base or something like that you want to do it. And you can pay a lot of money for it or you can use the free one. So anyway, that is my tweak of the week. It's kind of a different thing, but I think customer feedback is really important. It's one of the things I train people about all the time. And this is a pretty slick way to integrate it where when somebody is logged in, they have a link available to them and they can provide feedback and ideas. So anyway, that's
All right.
a neat thing. What you
Well,
got?
something that we're going to talk about on our show today. We're going to do a little presentation and a demo of Formly. Now, Formly is a forms app where you can create forms. You can. We're using it for applications if people want to be a guest on our show, and talent releases, so that we can streamline that process of bringing people in. But you can also use it if you're a coach and you want to understand somebody, what they want to talk about, work with you on. You can use a Formly. You can gather payments through it. You can use it for surveys and that sort of thing. So it would probably be more of, the individual rather than the group that Jen was talking about with Canny. You would want a group consensus of this is what we like, this is what we don't like, and gives you a direction. Whereas Formly would give you, okay, this is what this person needs, and this is what this person has to tell me, So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So if you're interested in learning more,
is Formly kind of like
Jotform.
I was gonna say, it could be like Jotform, Typeform. Product that I use is Paperform, and it can also take payments. It's pretty slick.
This is of course AppSumo.
AppSumo. Oh, I hadn't even noticed that. Yeah, I got Paperform on AppSumo. Now it's like $200 a month or something ridiculous.
Wow.
So you get those little tips, and then you kind of run with them because some of them really take off. Awesome. So we're bumping up against the hour, which is okay because we were actually late getting started. Would you like to close us out with the inspirational nugget?
You bet. Now, this was from my Daily Stoic, and there was an astronaut who was interviewed back when men first started going into space and to the moon. And he said, in outer space, you develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. So we want to ask ourselves, where have I lost the forest for the trees? And remember that it's important to take breaks and celebrate wins when they happen. The same is true of working in our business. The day-to-day work doesn't seem to matter, but when we look back at the portfolio of content we've created, we can see it all adds up. And when we have people reach out to us for a consultation or a proposal, it feels like sometimes it's just out of the blue. Hey, I got a call. Yay. But I know they've been thinking about it for weeks, months, or years before they're finally ready to contact us. And so if we stop making offers and stop doing our business, they wouldn't get the help they need to move forward. We wouldn't be here and still doing things for them to be able to reach out to us. So I'll go find somebody else. Right. So make sure you stick with it and take a look back every now and then and say, look what I've done. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you, everyone who's watching or listening. Have a great week, and we will see you next week to talk about YouTube.
Thank you for joining the Women Conquer Business podcast, hosted by Shelley Carney and Jen McFarland. Please subscribe and leave a comment or question regarding your most challenging content creation or business problem. Then share this podcast with family and friends so they can find the support they need to expand their brand and share their message with the world. Check the show notes for links to valuable resources and come back again next week.